Hello and welcome to this video, how to correctly crash your application using force unwrap. This is not clickbait. I'm actually going to tell you if you need to crash your app, this is how you're going to do it using force unwrap. Now, you only are going to do this in the event that your app cannot go any further because it's found an error and you need to crash, all right? And showing a pop-up or showing something is just not an alternative for you, right? If your app is literally going to have a fatal error, then this is the way to crash it, all right? Because this is the way to crash it. So what we are going to do is we're going to say var, and then we're going to call it bug, right? And this is going to be a string, and that's going to be like this. And it's going to be nil, all right? Now, we're going to have then, so 10,000 lines of code here. It probably could be, it's not 10,000 lines of code here. And we're expecting in this code for the bug to be, let's say that it's called a feature string needs to be here. And let's say in your line of code now, if basically let's feature is equal to feature here, if feature is equal to feature, then this is the correct line of code, right? This is where the actual code should come, because feature should actually have a value right now. Now, if feature doesn't have a value and you're like, wait a minute, this is a fatal error, this should have a value right now, but it's got to be optional in the beginning because it needs to be declared, because we need to test it at some points. It can be that during these 10,000 lines of code that it's allowed to be nil at that one time, right? Because it's saying some form of, it's like initialization or bootstrap or something. For that reason, for many reasons, this feature string has to be optional, and we want to be able to set it to nil at the bottom. So once we're finished, we then would turn around and say feature is equal to nil, and then maybe down here we would just have some cleanup code, etc., etc. So we're now properly finished with this one feature variable. Now inside of here, this is where it should happen, right? And this is what, so if your code has run correctly, then if let feature is equal to feature, then this is all hunky-dory and there's no need to crash. Now, however, right, if you are at this one point, you're like, this feature, it's got to be there. It has to be there. And if it's not, it's fatal. There is no point the code going on any further for cleanup or whatsoever. So, you know, feature here must be set, right? It cannot be nil. And this is the only time that you should do this, all right? And you can do it with guard statements, you can do it with if else statements or whatever, using fatal errors. But the easiest and fastest way to find a bug, right, is by doing it this way, because it will indicate I am a bug. Right? And if you get to this point, you need to debug to find out how to fix the previous bugs, because the bug is in this 10,000 lines of code somewhere, right? And so all you've got to do is just say, literally, if let feature is this, right? And then put an exclamation mark at the end of it. And this is going to force unwrap it. And if this is nil, right, this application is going to crash right now. So let's just run this and I will show you. And as you can see here, it crashed, fatal error, and boom, it comes to the direct line where it crashed. And this is the best thing that you can possibly have. If you put this in some form of guard statements and it just returned, that's a bug, right? I know that's good programming, but if you need feature to be here right now, if it's not there, it's a fatal error and it should crash. And you will get a crash report, and when you run the code and you do the same thing that the other person's done and you get to this point and the app crashes every single time, you can set breakpoints all the way through your code, and you can say test feature 1 here, and you can set breakpoints here, and you can run your code again, and you can see that it stops at that one point, and then we run it on even further, and boom, it crashes. So it's a way to help you to find where the bug is. Now, don't do this in every situation. Just because I can't be bothered to check, is it there? If something has supposed to have a value there at that one time and it doesn't, crash the app, right? Just let the app crash. Don't do all these pop-ups. There's been an error or something. Just let the crash app, because you'll have many people sending crash reports right in the background, and this is going to be far more beneficial to you because you can reproduce it. Otherwise, you just have a load of bugs, and people don't report pop-ups coming up on the screen. They don't report that. You want it to be in a crash report, and that's why you would do this. All right, but better write clean code in the 10,000 lines of code, and this won't happen. So if you use all the correct guard statements, if-let statements, and you unwrap things correctly here, and when you come to here, it means you've got a bug in those 10,000 lines of code, right? So that's the place to start checking, and you can go through with breakpoints and so on until you find where that feature has been used, etc., etc. With that said, I just want to, there's a big argument about whether you should use fatal error or how you should do it, but I hate people that use this exclamation mark in their code. There's only, like I said, there's only one time when you should use it, and one time only, and that's when you want to crash your code properly. And it's there for a reason. With that said, I hope you've got something out this one video. I've worked in big companies. I've written big applications for companies, and this is exactly how it's done. All right. And Apple will probably not say this, but if you need to fix your code quickly, this is the quickest way to double check where the bug is, because it's a bug. It's a bug in its waiting. If this code comes to here and this underscore doesn't have a value, right, then it's going to crash, and your app is not worthy of being in the App Store anyway. All right. With that said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and if you've got any comments about this or feedback about this, which I'm expecting you might have, then let's have a conversation in the comment section down below. Thanks very much. See you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.